With our brand new NBC News poll, which brings more warning signs for President Biden and his re-election campaign. These are some truly stunning numbers.
They really are, Kristen. And let's just start with the bottom line. When you ask folks, hey, if it's the general election and it's Trump versus Biden, in our poll, Donald Trump now leads Joe Biden by 5 points. Compare that. This is the biggest lead NBC has ever had in 16 polls for Donald Trump.
Steve, how worried should President Biden be 1 year before Election Day?
Donald Trump's legal problems don't seem to be impacting his poll numbers.
Under no circumstances, you would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one.
I tell you what, I don't know about you, but I'm going to go to bed. Two of the great artists of our time representing the groundbreaking legacy of hip-hop in America, LL Cool J. You could say even this harder than getting a ticket to the Renaissance tour or Britney's tour.
I don't really see any way a doddery, apparently half-dead Joe Biden beats him and stops him getting back in the White House.
No, but a cool.
Lots to talk about.
Yeah,
definitely.
Correct. So, welcome to another episode of with Lisa, Aaron, and Phil, and we have another returning guest, old friend Will Cooper. And he's come on to talk about his new book. Of course, the previous book that he came on about was Stress Test: How Donald Trump Threatens American Democracy, which we read and we've done a couple of episodes on. But he's here to talk a little bit about his new book, which is How America Works and Why It Doesn't, which I think is sort of from what I've read, it's sort of a follow-up on this. But Will, maybe you could enlighten us.
Well, thanks, Phil, and thanks, Lisa and Aaron. It's great to be back. Always have lots of fun talking about everything and always learn a lot. So thanks for having me. The new book is in a way it's a sequel. It's a little bit broader now, where the first book was focused on just Trump and was a collection of columns I'd written. The new book is broader, focusing on not just Trump, but all of the various big components of American democracy as I see them. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the book, but also, whatever topics the group would like to discuss. We always have fun, wide-ranging conversations.
Right. Was it another collection of essays, or is it?
This one's full length. So it's instead of being a collection of essays, it's start to finish all one coherent piece, which is a little bit harder to write, but I think a little bit easier to read, just because it's the columns are fun, but sometimes reading a column that's a snapshot in time from 9 months ago or something can be a little disjointing.
Or it could be stale or replaced by something since. Yeah.
Exactly. Or as often was the case, I was proven wrong with my predictions.
That's the nature of predictions.
Your threatened democracy seems to become very popular.
Yeah.
I think I was right about some and wrong about some, and certainly try to own the latter. Unlike some commentators.
Honestly, I hope you're wrong about most of them.
Yeah, me too. Some of them I was glad I was right. Like, I thought Trump would ultimately leave.
Yeah.
After a struggle, he would ultimately leave the Oval Office. So I was thankful that I was right about that. But yes, plenty of them are. I was also kind of underestimated how bad he would be after his presidency. Did you guys think it would be that he would continue on to be this influential and damaging after his presidency? I admittedly didn't see it.
Yeah.
No.
I didn't see it.
But then I can be a bit pessimistic about politics.
Yeah.
Well, that's a winning way to approach it lately. If you're trying to predict accurately.
That's a good baseline.
I mean, okay, I'm just gonna say I had hoped that it wouldn't, but I didn't have what's a way of saying I hoped, but I didn't expect.
Yeah.
I guess that's the way to say it.
Well, it had a sense of finality. At least you thought so, especially.
Well, and after January 6th, I thought it's over.
Yeah.
But then I thought, nah, these idiots are still gonna,
Right. But so just to go over what's in the news right now, Trump's defense in the Colorado trial, where Colorado has voted to leave him off the ballot for the upcoming presidential election. The trial about that
wasn't so much a vote. I think it was the Secretary of State, right?
I think that was Maine, but I think there was a vote in Colorado.
Oh, maybe.
Is that right?
I think Colorado was the court voting, the justices voting.
Okay.
Then in Maine, I think it was the Secretary of State ruling.
Okay.
Just
Trump's
her.
defense is that he is not subject to Section 3 of the 14th Amendment because he was not an officer of the United States as someone who was elected by the people, and that amendment is only applicable to people that were appointed. So kind of splitting hairs there.
The Supreme Court heard arguments today over whether or not former President Trump is eligible to be on the primary ballot in Colorado. Colorado's Supreme Court kicked him off the ballot, at least temporarily, citing the so-called insurrection clause of the 14th Amendment. It's section.
When somebody's the president of the United States, the authority is total, and that's the way it's got to be.
When the president does it, it's not illegal?
I'm just saying a president under Article 2, it's very strong. Read it. It gives me all of these rights at a level that nobody has ever seen before.
That, if he was guilty of insurrection, he has immunity because of this,
Doesn't it say that he can't run for office?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of technical arguments. I haven't heard the oral arguments today at the Supreme Court, but I heard a little snippets about some commentary, and I think it sounds like the court probably will rule against Colorado.
Yeah,
that's what I saw too.
Yeah, in favor of Trump. And it's not at all the court saying he didn't commit insurrection. They're not saying, I don't think they're saying that at all. I think what they're saying is the way this has come to us.
It's like an anti-states rights thing now, suddenly.
That's one way to look at it. That I think is insightful, Aaron. But I think that what they're all kind of sounds like mostly agreeing on is to have a single state make this judgment the way they did, and throw off the entire the entire country system.
Yeah, all of a sudden these partisan suits will come up.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense that they would rule that way, because I think the unbelievable amounts of mischief could follow if individual states could ban candidates like this. Biden would probably be thrown off of 20 Republican ballots within a week.
If he committed insurrection or abetted someone,
they would just say that what he's doing at the border is insurrection, and then throw him off the ballot. I don't have the limits of what Republican state houses will assert is pretty.
There's no bottom.
There's no bottom. Thank you. That's my sense, at least.
Yeah. Well, it seems like since your first appearance, that this idea of Trump threatening democracy has become like part of the narrative. I've heard that
a lot.
Every time I hear it in a news clip or something like that, I think of you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering, is that something that was kind of part of journalistic circles or something, and it's sort of risen to the level of the media
Sky is
now?
blue, journalistic circles.
Well, yeah, I mean, but no, but I mean, it's a certain way to say something that's
that term, if nothing else.
Yeah. Well, I've been made fun of for the title because it's so unoriginal. The New Republic wrote a article about one of my columns, and the guy was very mean about the title of my book, and he said it was the least original title of the year or something like that. But to my defense, I came up with the specific title about a year, maybe even a year and a half before the book came out. There's a big lag in publishing, and sometimes the titles can be way out there. At the time of that I proposed that title, it was definitely out there, and that was something that people were talking about. It certainly didn't originate around that time at all. I'd heard it a lot, but since then, it is consistent, and that would have been maybe early 2021, something like that phrase. But then since then, a phrase that was in existence and was being used just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and now it's ubiquitous.
The race for president and President Biden today in the first major speech of his re-election campaign, arguing that Donald Trump is a threat to our democracy.
President Biden made the case Donald Trump is an existential threat to our democracy.
Is democracy still America's sacred cause? He's willing to sacrifice our democracy.
Now we have a president who's a great danger to democracy. He really is. He is a danger to democracy. And
ubiquitous, right? It's not apocryphal, it's ubiquitous.
Well,
there you go.
In this case, it's both.
Yeah. Well, that was going to be the name of this podcast at one time, but I decided that was too many characters. But
there you go.
If it's not apocryphal, it's ubiquitous.
I think one thing about that phrase is it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Yeah.
And I personally don't think it means that Trump's going to become a dictator and we're going to have stormtroopers marching, in our neighborhoods and throwing Democrats in jail or things of that nature. What I think the threat with Donald Trump is that if he were to get elected and take the reins of power, he would have a lot more ability to.
We'll never get him back out.
Well,
he's already demonstrated.
That question ultimately gets to the military.
Yeah,
everything ultimately ends up as a matter of force when you take it the full extent of the logic. And I don't know if the military would support Trump if he clearly lost, but.
I don't know. They were withholding appointments for a long time, and now Trump can go in there and appoint whoever he wants. That he's sure is going to let him sit in office. I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion. My personal view is the military would not go along with clearly illegal orders from Trump or his appointed Secretary of Defense that were blatantly illegal or tried to further some aim at becoming a dictator. I think they would just flat out reject that. And we saw that. So. We saw that with General Milley and the military. At the end of Trump's term, and my sense is that they wouldn't let that. But I think Trump would do a lot of damage. He might
given
not
a
become
chance
a dictator,
to learn from his mistakes and going back in there again, man. I don't know. It's scary.
Yeah.
Now I have a question. At this point, does it really make sense for Biden to be the one, number one?
Yeah.
And number two,
who else?
Is it Trump's to win or Biden's to lose?
It's Biden's to win.
I think those are. Oh, sorry, Lisa. Were you going to add something?
No.
I think those are very good questions. I like Joe Biden personally, and his general platform throughout his career is something that I generally would agree with. His politics, not across the board, but generally speaking, he's a moderate Democrat, and I support him philosophically. But I'm very opposed to his candidacy. I think he's very past his prime in terms of how he thinks about things and his functioning. Happens to everybody at different ages, and by the time I'm in my early 80s, I'll probably be less coherent than he is. So it's not a personal attack, but he's in his 80s and he is not the best person for the job. So I'm very disappointed that he.
Well, he was never the Democrat I wanted for the job, but he was a Democrat for the job and probably the one that, probably the only one that could beat Trump, aside from maybe Bernie Sanders. Yeah, I mean in 2020.
Right.
And now I don't know who would replace Biden as a person who could defeat Trump. Yeah.
At this juncture, it'd be impossible. But I mean, the polls right now, an NBC poll came out last week. Trump leads Biden by 47% to 42% if you don't factor in a conviction in one of these trials. And even if he is convicted in a trial, he's still projected to lose 45% for Biden, 43% for Trump, which is almost falls within a margin of error. So I mean, it's a kind of a grim outlook right now.
It's early. I'm not worried at all.
And a lot of the people that I know want to vote for Trump. The reason why I said Biden.
Well, you're also in a very conservative town.
Well, what is going to happen
in a very Trump town?
What's going to? Go ahead.
Thank you. A lot of people are like, they just don't want to vote for Biden. It's not that they want to vote for Trump. They don't want to vote for Biden more than they want to vote for Trump.
Yeah.
And
what's the logic there?
That's why I'm voting.
Trump shows all the cognitive decline that Biden does.
Well, they're both showing decline, but I think that Biden is showing more. I mean, what is a debate between Trump and Biden?
Trump confused Nikki Haley and Nancy Pelosi.
I never report the crowd on January 6th. Nikki Haley. Did you know they destroyed all of the information, all of the evidence, everything, deleted and destroyed all of it, because of lots of things. Like Nikki Haley is in charge of security. We offered her 10,000 people. Soldiers, National Guard, so whatever they want, they turned it down. They don't want to talk about it.
I get it. I've been reading that stuff, but when you look at, I mean, Biden.
I don't think Trump voters care about that.
Right, but I don't think there's that many Trump voters. He's not increasing his base. His base is eroding.
Mm.
Yeah. Well,
but the problem is both of them are.
I mean,
both of them are, but
other Republicans right now. So
there's no competition now. Nikki Haley's almost done. She lost. She lost to. She lost by more than double against anyone else in the Arizona primary. Of course, the caucus is today.
Is it today? I think
they did a weird thing in Arizona. I think it was Arizona, where they decided to forego the primary for some reason and have a caucus instead to decide who gets the nomination. So Trump didn't get on the primary ballot. So there was an option for none of these people, and that won like 63% to Nikki Haley with 30-something% yesterday.
Wow, none of the above.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then Trump's gonna roll over them tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so his decision not to debate anyone during the not to participate in the Republican debates, can't that? I mean, if you're looking for an angle about how he could close the gap, or how Biden could close the gap on Trump a little bit, could it be Trump is neglecting an opportunity?
It's the whole. Just look at just take this week in the House GOP, for example, all driven by Trump. They scuttled a border deal that the Republicans had insisted upon 3-4 months ago, as part of Ukraine aid, I believe. And then there was the Mayorkas failed impeachment vote yesterday, where Al Green, what a great name,
yeah,
came out of his hospital bed and showed up at the 11th hour to cast the deciding vote to not impeach.
Saying
So it's
a couple lines of "Let's stay together."
yeah.
Nice. I didn't make that connection, but that was a good one.
Yeah, that's why I said it was such a great name. Yeah. Yeah, take me to the river.
Yep.
But
There you go.
but that's all been driven by Trump. He doesn't want the border deal because he wants to keep making it a political issue. So he basically told them, I mean, they're going to lose that slim majority in the House. I think it's going to be a really blue November. I don't think they're going to see it coming either. There's the people still pissed off about the Roe overturning.
I think that's a big deal. I think that's really
Well,
good.
Aaron, I definitely want you to be right, but if what you're saying is true, why is Trump at 47 and Biden at 42?
I don't know. I don't know who they're polling. I don't know who answers their phones. Yeah.
Right.
What's the source of the data?
I don't rely heavily on the data either, but it seems like that poll could just as easily be wrong.
Yeah.
The opposite way too. I'm not putting a lot of weight in the polling. I personally don't have a lot of confidence at this point, one way or the other.
When Trump won, he was behind in all the polls against Hillary Clinton too. So
yeah.
Yep, that's true.
So it feels like having a confidence Trump will lose. What are you sinking your teeth into with that?
I think he lost significantly already in 2020, and like I said, his base isn't increasing; it's, if anything, decreasing.
Is that
indictments, possible convictions?
Yeah.
The
Roe thing
around longer. Yeah, Roe. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I certainly want you to be right, and we'll knock on wood, and we can look at this episode in late November.
And Biden's, the economy's doing better than people expected. Biden's up in the polls over the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
He's cruising through all of his primaries right now.
Don't you think that what do you think is the strategy of not participating in the Republican debates? I mean,
it's fine. It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's
more than it would have
the less that the American people have to hear shit come out of his mouth, the better. Yeah. So if he's not in the debate, I'm fine with that.
But I mean,
they know where to find his opinions if they want to hear them.
But he's in the general election, he's handing the Democrats something to hit him over the head with. You know, you're too much of a coward to participate. You know, you didn't really. You're not. None of that stuff really seems.
It'll be fun. I hope Joe brings that out.
Yeah. But
one of the hard parts I have making predictions is logic is so irrelevant compared to what it used to be. You used to have cause and effect in politics that was somewhat predictable. Like if there was a major scandal with a politician that would harm them, right? John Edwards had a scandal and we've never heard from him again.
He's done.
Donald Trump has built
Al Franken, gone.
Donald Trump in today's politics does things much worse than Trump and Edwards ever did, and it helps him. So trying to figure out what cause and effect will be is very hard for me.
Yeah, like I was listening to Rogan, and Rogan recently had on, I don't know the guest's name, but he did say that Sammy the Bull calls Trump incorruptible. I mean, there's literally, and it's kind of a variation of that old comment that Trump made that he could shoot someone in the middle of the street and nobody, nothing sticks. He's like a mafia don or something, incorruptible,
Well,
he's convicted rapist.
That can be true all the way up until the moment it's not. We'll just have to. We'll see. So far, he has been.
Yeah.
I think there's a real I don't know what the electoral consequences would be, but I think there's a real possibility he will get convicted in at least one of his.
Yeah.
Even if you're flipping coins, if you flip them 4 times, you're bound to get heads at least once. Not necessarily.
They're strong, yeah.
But what the impact on his presidential ambitions will be is hard to predict.
Yeah. Well, here's something that I find kind of distressing. You know, I get during the baseball playoffs, I get upset because I can't watch the entire baseball playoffs unless I have streaming services or, like the
4 different
Apple
streaming
TV,
services
TBS, whatever.
for
Are you a
$400
Reds
a
fan?
year.
Yeah. But,
Yeah.
I
Are
mean,
you
it's
a
getting that
Reds
way with the
fan,
news
Paul?
cycle. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, Bill.
we're all Reds fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I'd known, after 1990, that was pretty hard on me. So I don't know if I would
Oh,
have joined had I known a bunch of Reds fans.
that was a glorious time.
Yeah, that was the
Billy
last
Hatcher.
golden moment. Yeah.
We got all the t-shirts, the banners, the hats.
Nothing ever since.
But the news cycle's getting to be like this.
Okay.
33 years of futility after that.
If all you've got is over the air antennas, the news cycle is almost not entirely cut off to you, but increasingly cut off to you. I mean, you might not be able to.
That might be a good thing, man.
Well, I mean, if you
Pick and
can
choose your own
actually-
news, read what you want to read about,
if you
instead of letting them vomit into your ears.
Oh, click. I call it click.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's, I don't know. I feel, I appreciate what you're saying, Aaron, that you're not corrupted by the bias of Fox News and CNN and all of that. But
Well,
it seems
there's
to
still
me that-
bias in print. There's plenty of bias in print,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
But it just seems
I
like
don't know.
there's an
I'd rather
increasing-
read it in my own voice, kind of.
Yeah. Your own narrator.
Okay.
Yeah, my own internal.
I believe that Trump's going to say that Biden, as president, didn't have to go through any Democratic debates. So why should he have to go through a Republican debate and not just have it be a battle of kings?
Because there were no Democratic debates.
I know.
It's not unusual for an incumbent president.
To not have to go through debates. So why should Trump have to?
There's usually some debates,
I'm
but
sorry, I
it's-
might have said that wrong. I'm just saying that I think that the reason why Trump didn't do any debates is because he thinks of himself as a de facto incumbent.
Isn't that why he's forcing Ronna McDaniel out because she even had a Republican debate?
I did not know that.
I don't know who that is.
She's the head of the RNC.
Oh, okay, because she allowed there to be
Yeah,
debates.
she's expected
And
to
just
step
didn't
down
say-
today or tomorrow. She's like
Trump, he's in
Mitt Romney's
charge.
niece or something like that.
Yeah.
He also made her drop the name Romney. She used to be Ronna Romney. What's her last
You
name?
need to stop listening to him.
That's
Yeah,
just weird.
Ronna Romney McDaniel, and Trump made her drop the Romney because he was his main competitor. Yeah.
Well, Trump tried to challenge
Tell Trump what he can do with himself.
Biden to a debate the other day.
Now he's
and
forcing her out.
The first request was denied. So,
Right.
but there will be a debate at some point, I'm sure. I mean, Biden was
Maybe.
a master debate. He was a master debater.
You love to laugh at that.
Yeah.
But no, Biden.
I don't know
was
about that.
When he
Seems a
was a
12-year-old.
political. Okay, so he was a smooth.
Obama was a
politician.
good debater.
Some people didn't read very well, but I mean, like when he debated Sarah Palin, it was like a shark. It was like shark infested water.
Oh.
She just totally.
Sweetie, we're talking
Yeah,
about
if I debated a 3-year-old, then yeah,
Yeah.
it would be the same result.
We're talking unarmed opponent.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, he was a very savvy politician at one time, but I just feel like in a debate now, if Trump is going to get any momentum, it's going to be.
I don't know. I think a debate would be bad for both of them.
I think so.
They
I
both
mean,
have gaffes. They're both too old for the job.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
The
Trump's are
less
every bit as
they're-
bad
the
and frequent as
less they're allowed
Biden's.
to speak alone in public, the better for both of them. Well, was
I
it
think their
Cheryl
advisors
was saying
agree.
that Biden
And-
shit himself,
and
and I'm like,
well, how would she know?
I think Mitch McConnell might have shit himself. That's
it happens. There are medications
He-
that cause that.
Right.
oh,
Get
McConnell
over
had 2 different episodes
doesn't
where he
mean
like
you're a
stopped
doddering
talking.
fool who has
He
no control.
he like froze for 30 seconds twice.
Who did?
Mitch McConnell.
McConnell. Right. Yeah.
right
for-
before they took him out.
I saw video of that. He was very, he was.
Which one? The
catatonic.
first one or the second one?
I
I
don't
think
know.
that-
I don't
He
know
did
which
it 2
one.
different
Yeah.
times.
Right. But who, Will? Who do you think? I keep treating this Republican side like there has to be some semblance of logic and some strategy,
Yeah.
and most of you guys are
everybody
just
everybody
almost
on the
incredulous
Republican
that-
side's bailing that has any lot. They're all like resigning from
But
Congress.
But like you guys are pushing back. You're almost incredulous, not incredulous, but you guys are. I don't know. You seem to
Well,
be like
You're living in a conservative fishbowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't listen. I don't listen to a lot of local.
We
stuff
don't
anymore.
talk
Yeah, you
politics
do.
locally.
I don't listen to podcasts and
What comes on when you start your car? You don't?
No,
Huh?
I got the earbuds in.
No,
That's illegal.
Our radio
Yeah.
volume broke, Aaron. He really doesn't listen to anything in the car anymore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But I'm going to ask anyway. Who do you think he might pick as a vice president candidate?
I'll let Aaron go first there.
Yeah, let me think about this. Well, it's going to be Nikki Haley, I imagine.
Yeah. Interesting.
That seems like probably the right pick to me as well. Probably DeSantis comes to mind, but I think Haley's more likely.
Oh God, what a scary thought.
Yeah, that's just scary. I can see DeSantis taking Trump out just so he can.
I think those two they just hate each other a little too much.
Yeah.
Trump holds a grudge.
Yeah, I think Haley's the right guess. It could also be some interesting thing about Trump is when there are guardrails in place, his decisions are much better, and when there are no guardrails, they're much worse typically. So, the Rudy Giuliani and Steve Bannon and Roger Stone were sort of informal advisors, but the people that got confirmed by the Senate tended to be a lot more responsible than those folks. With the vice president, he'll get a lot of advice and there'll be a lot of strategy, presented to him about who would make sense, but it's up to him. So he could pick a total freak show as well. Like it could be like a random, sheriff from
the My Pillow guy.
What about Ramaswamy?
Yeah, I mean, like it could be because there's no formal guardrail on it. So I think Nikki Haley's the right guess, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was somebody really on left field.
Yeah. Nikki Haley or Mike Lindell. Yeah.
What about like Ramaswamy? Is he too much of a loon?
No, I think Trump just has too much fun making fun of him.
Well, then he might want to keep him closer.
Well, apparently he's been like Tim Scott, Ben Carson. He was a presidential candidate in the last election. But it's like with each one of these guys, though. I mean, it's possible to likely that they may finish.
How old's Ben Carson? Isn't he like Biden's age?
I'll look it up.
No, I think he's younger than that. But I mean, I don't. But
I mean, Trump's almost Biden's age.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with each one of these guys, though, I mean, the potential is there that someone else would be concluding the administration. So, I mean, it's I know we're winding down here, Will. You got a few more minutes?
72.
Yeah.
Carson's 72.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's a spring chicken.
So
Nikki Haley.
Aaron, you had said that the economy was doing pretty good right now, and people I work with,
Inflation's
some of them
down.
would disagree. But I always felt like that the economy is more of a reflection of the administration a lot of times before the current one. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
The policies of the previous administration.
Trump coasted on Obama. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wondering what, in Trump's first administration, what did you say again? What'd you say?
Trump coasted on Obama.
Okay. All right. I thought I heard something else, but I feel like
Trump coasted on your mama.
Say what? Hey, this is over. Okay.
Stop talking about his mama.
Trump's first 2 years at
I
work,
apologize to Lois.
They were all in a frenzy, that the economy was really on the upswing and all this shit. Do you feel like that was like an illusion, or do you feel like that?
No, it had been on an upswing for like 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, the trends in some pretty key areas improved under Trump from where they were under Obama. It might have been Obama causing it, but they did get better up until COVID. So I think it's a reasonable likelihood that if the economy hadn't been dramatically slowed by COVID, that Trump would have won in 2020.
Yeah, he may have.
Because the economy does tend to be the biggest driver of results.
But the universe had to let him say, "Oh, can they inject bleach?" And can all these other
hydroxy.
Crazy. Yeah, that definitely crashed him.
People actually died from that.
Yeah. I don't. I'm not an economist, but I tend to.
My Darwin Awards joy comes into play there, but still.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was saying that I'm not an economist, but I tend to think the president's role in the economy is dramatically overstated. However you frame it, whether it's previous administration, current administration, or tie it back to Reagan deregulation or whatever, I think the economy tends to be the president, the policies emanating from the Oval Office tend to be dramatically overstated in a lot of discussion.
Other than the overturning of the Glass-Steagall Act, I don't really see a lot of serious economic impact from presidential decisions for a while.
There's economic cycles itself, the Federal Reserve, interest rates, the global economy and how other countries are doing, and trade. And then a lot of the president's policies are they depend on who's in Congress, and it's not like the president doesn't just say I want this and then that's the law. There's a lot of other factors, and
except for what day one when he sit down and write all these executive orders, right? And then
those get a lot of attention, but they're not particularly consequential. They're often merely symbolic. The most famous one of all, I think, was Trump's travel ban, which got eviscerated in court repeatedly and wasn't followed and caused a bunch of confusion. But it wasn't, the really consequential laws are when there's actual legislation passed by both houses of Congress and signed by the president. And then, of course, the Supreme Court rulings. But executive orders they're more powerful than anything most people are doing. But in the grand scheme of the federal law system, they tend not to be that big of a deal.
They're largely ceremonial. That's why the paper is about like this big, and you got a big pen, and cameras capturing it all for effect.
And sometimes they're consequential. Sometimes the president is given discretion by a piece of legislation, and an executive order can change the policy in a meaningful way. I just think compared to other forms of lawmaking, it's much more symbolic and much less consequential.
I think should be used more like a stopgap till real laws can be passed around it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the president can issue an executive order at any time, right? It's not
Correct.
okay. So that's
But they don't have unlimited powers with an executive order, do they?
They have very limited powers, actually.
Thought
The Supreme Court has been very clear that for something to be a law, a meaningful law, it has to go through the bicameral legislative process and be signed by the president. They struck down, for example, Biden's had an initiative to force coal companies to move away from coal. The Supreme Court struck that down because it wasn't passed by the House and the Senate and then signed by Biden. His administration just did it.
Same with student loan forgiveness, right?
Same exact thing on student loans. Now, sometimes executive orders will be important because the legislation will grant the discretion, and then the president will operate within that discretion. They can also be consequential because it can take years for the courts to strike them down. So you can move the needle for a while until the courts strike it down. But I think DACA was another example where Trump tried to rescind it, and he didn't do it the right way. So the president's domestic authorities tend to be quite circumscribed. Internationally, there's a lot more leeway to just say, I want to do this, and then it happens.
Yeah.
We're coming up on your hard stop, I think.
Yeah. Can we ask you one last little
Absolutely. Yeah, please.
Let's assume that Aaron's wrong, and
but Aaron's never wrong. How can we assume that?
Very rarely wrong.
That's why it's pure conjecture, because this almost would never happen. But if, let's say, Trump wins the election, what impact will that have on foreign affairs, like Gaza and
Yeah, are we suddenly going to be rah Putin take Ukraine?
in Ukraine? He has this relationship with Putin.
Trump loves Putin. Says Trump is brilliant. I love that when he says I'm brilliant. I do have a relationship with him. He is a tough cookie. He's big, he's strong. Strong man, big, tough guy.
So I think you're touching on maybe the most important question. There's an enormous amount of, I think the U.S. political system tends to be a little myopic and focused domestically. That's true in most, if not all, countries. It's just human nature.
Yeah.
But the world is getting more and more complicated globally with China and Russia and all these, the technology out there that's only getting more sophisticated, over time. And so I think Trump domestically can cause a lot of confusion and anger and cause a lot of problems. And the outer limits of what he could do domestically are quite severe if the worst case were to happen. But in general, the biggest threat of another Trump presidency to me is foreign policy and miscalculation globally, because Trump is not intelligent, he's not informed, and he's not responsible. He's belligerent, and he's
not well liked by a lot of world leaders either.
No, and he's not the type of person that you want to entrust authority in, because he's not competent. And he doesn't
the
have
least
the right
diplomatic person you can imagine, pretty much.
And he doesn't have the right intentions. So you wouldn't want to entrust him with a small business in your town selling bagels, on the weekend. But as president of the United States, you're entrusting him with the most powerful military in human history, and to be the leader of the single most influential country in the world. And so that, to me, is the biggest concern if he gets back in
chance to steal more classified documents.
I think all of those risks are there as well. And then there's also the risk that we get entangled in a really big problem because of his lack of discretion and judgment.
Yeah.
Well, this has been kind of a rapid fire episode. Really enjoyed it.
Been fun though, yeah.
Welcome here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This new book is How America Works and Why It Doesn't, which you can pre-order on Amazon right now.
When's that come out?
July.
Comes out in July, and I really appreciate the plug. And notwithstanding that you're all Reds fans, and I am reminded of the 1990 World Series, I had a great time.
What are you, a Cardinals fan?
I'm an Oakland A's fan.
Oh, you're an A's fan. Oh, I see.
Always have 1972.
That's awesome. Yeah, yeah. You got us first.
I wasn't born yet. I was born in 1980, so I was a kid when Billy Hatcher decided to bat 700.
Yeah.
And things the guest says for 1,000, Alex.
I was working at Domino's Pizza. Oh no, I'd gone from Domino's. No, 90.
No, 90.
I'd gone from Domino's to Burbank's Real Barbecue because I drove with a friend of mine from there to Pittsburgh for the playoffs twice.
Nice. Well,
that's
joking around, and I really appreciate being on the show. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude, I'm sorry about the A's situation in general right now, man.
I feel bad.
If I'd known you were an A's fan, we'd have definitely dedicated more time to that.
That's horrible. Well, we can talk about it next time. Although I'll need to bring
Vegas isn't a done deal. We don't know where they're going to end up yet.
Do a baseball episode then.
True. Yeah.
All right, well,
thanks for being on. We know you got to go.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. Great to be in touch again. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Lisa and Phil. Good to see you.
We have social.
Twitter.
Yeah, pod.
Instagram.
Yeah, pod.
Facebook.
Yeah, pod. So let us know. Hit us back. Have a great week.